What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Woodshed. Today we're doing another video. This time we're doing a tier list for the hero equipment. Let's go ahead and get into the video. You guys heard me here, right? Today we're doing another tier list. I did one of these last year that you guys absolutely went crazy for, and you guys also told me I was absolutely crazy for. So we're going to do a new updated one now that the Minion Prince first epic equipment is out. The Dark Crown, we're going to do a new one. I feel like a handful of new equipment's come out, so I really want to do one of these, and especially with some of these meta shifts, now that the Eternal Tome rework has taken place, we're going to take a look and see how we really feel about some of these. We're going to go in order, or try our best to, as far as King, Queen, Minion, Prince. We're going to do all those in order. Again, this is my personal opinion. If you don't like my opinion, that's okay. You don't have to like it. But this is going to be just my thing, so we're going to break it down right. S tier being the very top, S tier being a must use, why wouldn't you? And then F tier, of course, being a why would you use this ever for any circumstance whatsoever. And then everything in between. A is pretty good, you can get away with using it, I understand. B is fine, decent. C is average, why would you use it? There's definitely better options. And then D is probably shouldn't use it, probably pretty mediocre. And then, of course, like I said, F, why is you use it? And it's perfect. We start there because we have the Barbarian Puppet. Doesn't really provide a whole lot of value, just spawns a lot of extra Barbarians with the Barbarian King. Not something he really particularly needs, especially due to how squishy they are. So not very helpful, right? There are moments where you could use it to help, like, funnel the side of the base, but I'm not going to rate something very highly just because of that, right? And then we go into the Rage Vial. The Rage Vial is not bad. I'm gonna put it in. I'm gonna put it in B tier, but you really could put that in C tier. It's just a personal rage spell for your Barbarian King. What's really bad about that? Not a whole lot, but it's not as good as some of the other options. I could be swayed to put it at the top of C. I would not put it past B though. That's for sure. Um, I think that one's pretty simple. I don't really feel like we need to explain that one a whole lot. The Earthquake Boots did very recently get a nerf. I do think the Earthquake Boots are A tier as far as the King's equipment goes. Keep in mind, I'm doing these within the parameters that the game is giving me, right? So, how usable are they? How much value do they provide? The Earthquake Boots are fantastic for taking out skeleton traps. They're fantastic for, excuse me, they are fantastic for opening up walls and just providing that extra little bit of damage to open up the base for certain troops that always get stuck on them, right? In my Root Rider army, I use the Earthquake Boots, and I save it towards the end in case I don't have any Root Riders left and I've messed something up, and I use it at the end. I do think Boots are A tier. Again, I could be swayed to put them down a tick lower, but I think back into A tier is perfectly fine. Vamp Stash is the definition of an average equipment. For those of you who don't know what it does, every time your Barbarian King hits something, it gives him a little bit of health. Very nice at the lower town halls. At the higher town halls, very quickly becomes outdone because the damage done by buildings far outweighs what the Vamp Stash can provide. So I think it's the definition of just an average equipment. It's fine, and really, if you don't have any of the epics, it's one you probably should use, but not something I'd recommend very highly, right? Um, Next, we have the Giant Gauntlet. Giant Gauntlet's kind of in that same spot with the boots, where it's A tier, maybe a B tier, something like that. I don't think it's a must use for most army compositions. For Root Riders, I'm sure they still get some value out of it, but after that damage reduction, there's probably better things you can use with it, right? But I do think it still provides a lot of value, especially on those more clumped together bases. But otherwise, I don't think it provides the value anymore now that Root Riders have been nerfed, and you don't see them as often. You still do see them, but when it comes to air armies, that's not something you can get a lot of value from. And then we go to Spiky Ball, which is actually the best equipment the King has. There's no conversation here about where this should be put. If there is a conversation here, I'm so sorry, you guys are wrong, right? Spiky Ball, no matter what level it is, can just clear out a handful of buildings for you. Fantastic for starting a funnel. Fantastic for hitting those last couple builds at the end of the raid. As far as the Barbarian King goes, it is a nice equipment, right? Last one we have for the Barbarian King is the Snake Bracelet. And personally, I don't like the Snake Bracelet. Um, I do see a lot of people use it. Shout out to Clash with AT, my buddy, who's going to be very upset that I'm going to put this in. I'll put this in B tier solely for the damage reduction aspect to it. It's very similar to the Barbarian Puppet, where it actually just spawns extra barbarians. It actually doesn't. It spawns snakes, and then there's a big damage reduction there. I'm sure there's a small damage boost with it, but it's pretty minute. I really could be swayed to put this in. You know what? I am going to put this in C. We're gonna do that. I feel better about that because, and he always says he uses it just to funnel the outside. For those of you guys who don't know, I'm talking about. He's a guy in my community. He's a very high trophy pusher, and he uses it, but he uses it simply to funnel. And with the damage reduction, it makes a little bit of sense, but I do think there's better choices. So this is kind of what we're looking at as far as um this is kind of what we're looking at as far as the Barbarian King equipments go. Now we're going to go into the Archer Queens. We're not going to waste a ton of time, right? Archer Puppet, same thing as the Barbarian Puppet. Doesn't really get a lot of value, especially with how many better options there are. And then we have the Invisibility Vial. Now the Invisibility Vial is a nice, if you don't have any of the epic equipments, it's not a bad oh shit thing. So that's going to be surprising by where I put it, but it is going to be a C tier. Causes invincibility, does a ton of damage added to it, but again, at those higher town halls, right, where you start to see a lot of these things get a lot more health, just really doesn't have a ton of purpose. An extra handful of shots with a high damage isn't going to do enough for you. We're going to go to the Giant Arrow. Giant Arrow, I'm kind of feeling, because based on the meta, right, you don't need the Giant Arrow if you're one of those people who uses Root Rider. So it almost makes me not want to put it very high. But if you're one of those people who's an air meta only, it's an S tier, right? So I have to go somewhere in between there. I'm going to put it in A tier because I think it's average probably. I could put it at the top of B. I'm going to put it on A. I think it's fantastic. As a guy who does a lot of air raids myself, even when I do Root Riders, I use them sometimes for the double invisibility towers. So actually, now that I say that, I'm more comfortable putting it in A over B. I think it's a fantastic one. I don't think it's a must run, but I do think, and there's a lot of circumstances where you really can get some benefit out of it. Now we're going to go Healer Puppet, just a personal little healer for your Archer Queen. Couple of them, I'm going to put that in A tier as well. Who doesn't like the extra healers? If you're running any kind of air army, again, you're trying to get sweepers, you're trying to get air defenses. It helps keep her alive that little bit longer. Fantastic idea, right? Or if you're running Root Riders, it's an extra few healers for your Queen, or extra few healers for what will be your Root Riders and stuff later. So I think that's fantastic. I'm looking at the Frozen Arrow and I'm trying to decide, right? Because it's not, if that's the only epic equipment you got, because it was the first epic that the Archer Queen really came out with, you're not in a bad spot. I just don't think it's all that fantastic. That's a B tier for me, right? It's a B tier all day, every day. What that does is it just slows down defenses, right? So it does help prolong her life, and in certain scenarios where you don't need the Giant Arrow, maybe a Frozen Arrow and a Healer Puppet, fantastic. I don't see the value, kind of like with the Invisibility Vial. Since more equipment's come out, I don't see the value in running that over other options, right? Magic Mirror. This is another one. Man, the Queen's got a lot of really nice equipment now the more we keep going on this. We got the Magic Mirror, which I do see some people use in Root Rider armies, and I do not blame them in the slightest. I am going to put that in A tier as well. I'm actually going to put that. I'm not gonna worry about placing that right now. I'll worry about that in a little bit. That's an easy A tier, top of B tier. Fantastic for helping set a funnel. Fantastic if you can get Root Riders under the base with your Queen. I do struggle to get my Queen into the base a lot of times. So I think that one's kind of a no-brainer for me. That one's not going to be S tier because of that alone. If you can get it into the base, I think it's an easy S tier. With Root Riders, I think it doesn't serve a lot of purpose in air armies, but I think it does so well for Root Rider armies that it has to be an A tier. And then we come down to the action figure. Action figure is also probably an A tier, I'm going to say. Now, the more that I'm sitting here thinking about this, I'm thinking about how awesome these are. I'm about to make an adjustment. Action figures probably, it spawns a super giant, right, basically, that when he gets to half health or a quarter health, I don't remember exactly which, it goes Rage monster. It breaks through walls really easy, does some splash damage, attacks also like heroes. Fantastic equipment. I actually run that one more than I run anything. And you know what? Because I've made this adjustment now, I am going to put the healer puppet in S tier. Fight me in the comment section. I've been higher ranked than most of you in the world before, so fight me if you want. But that's okay. You know, like I said, we're not all going to be the same. I'll take the arguments. That's okay. I think these are reasonable to put, right? Man, the Queen's got some really nice equipment, right? Now we're going to go on to the opposite, to the Minion Prince, who doesn't have a lot of equipment. Newest hero, of course, we have the Henchman Puppet. Spawns 2 little henchmen for the Minion Prince that will take some damage for him. Kind of like the Hog Puppet does, where he goes invisible for a second, they go out in front of him, they tank some damage. I do think it's a decent equipment. I don't think it's anything outstanding. B tier. I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. 2 little henchmen, they go tank for bombs for him. He goes invisible, so he doesn't take the damage, whatever it does, retracts to the henchman or whatever else is around him. I think that's an easy B tier. I don't think it's anything outstanding. I do wish they come out with some better equipment for him, but I don't think that's a bad one to run. Dark Orb is an easy S tier. Easy S tier. If you're running Minion Prince and you're not running Dark Orb, you're doing something wrong. Dark Orb is the thing to use. That nice big push and slowdown of all the buildings in whatever radius it is where he was facing is second to none, and there's not even a way you can compare it. So if you got anything else below, please fight me. I will take you in the comment section below. We're down to only a couple of things left for the Minion Prince, and that's how sad this feels, man. That he's not been around for super long, but he's only got 4 or 5 things of equipment. Next one is Metal Pants. That is going to be the definition. I'm going to put that one in D tier. I could be swayed to put it in C, so I'll let you guys really decide. I'll put it at the bottom of C tier. Let's do that. So the reason I'm putting it at the bottom of C, Metal Pants, is just a ball around him that just mitigates the amount of damage he is receiving. Don't think that's very useful, especially when you can use the Henchman Puppet, and you can just have 2 henchmen out in front of you who will do some damage in case he's not getting hurt, or will tank for bombs for him. Unless you're just one of those people and your Minion Prince is all alone and he tanks for like 6 traps all by himself, all within a very quick time span, the Metal Pants is never, in my opinion, never worth it. Now we go to the Noble Iron. I'm kind of in the same boat with the Noble Iron, where, I'm actually going to put Noble Iron in the D tier. Not because it's necessarily bad, I just think it's bad comparable to the choices you got. Right, what Noble Iron does is it's basically like a rocket spear for the Minion Prince. What it does is it allows him to stay farther back and hit things from a range with a little bit extra damage, I do believe. And that's not what you want from your Minion Prince. You want him to be into the action quickly so you can kind of control where he's going to go so you can point his Dark Orb. I am kind of basing these off of that, but the Dark Orb is going to be the only S tier one they have. Spoiler alert. We got the Dark Crown. So because of that, I don't like the Noble Iron. I'm kind of in the same boat with this. I could be convinced to put it in C. I could be convinced to put the Metal Pants in D. Either way. And now we go to the last one, the newest one, the Dark Crown. That one's F tier. No, I'm just kidding. It's not F tier. That one's probably going to be... So listen. Because of how niche it is for certain armies, I'm going to go B tier. Keep in mind, Dark Crown just come out, right? So there is the possibility. I do see the potential for it going up. That's for damn sure. What it does is as troops die in your army, it buffs your Minion Prince, which is pretty cool, right? Who doesn't love the idea of them getting a higher health percent and doing more damage? I think that's a fantastic idea. The issue is it takes like 180 troop space for it to work like that. And there are armies where you can do that, where you can do a Royal Champion dive and revive, and if you place your Minion Prince before she dies the first time, he gets the buff, or he's halfway to the buff before the army's placed, which is fantastic. And then you revive, and that's the halfway mark, right? The issue is that's so niche that it is. I have to dock at points for being so niche, and having to kind of be in that rush when you're doing it. So, do I think it's cool? Yes. Do I think it's better than a henchman puppet? It's probably in that same category. So I feel pretty comfortable putting it in there. Um, Now we're down to the Grand Warden. We're gonna start with the Life Gem, right? Again, default equipment, right? Life Gem is the definition of just a mediocre equipment, so it's going to go in D tier. I don't think it's as useless as either the Barbarian or the Archer puppet. What the Life Gem does is it gives you a extra percent of health that caps out at 1,000 HP. The cap is really what holds back the Life Gem, right? Because bigger tier troops don't really get a lot of benefit out of it. Lower town halls might find some benefit, or people who are, in that mid town hall range and running hybrids and stuff like that. They'd probably get more benefit out of it than somebody like I would, obviously, because of the different caps and health space, right? 1,000 extra health to hogs or super hogs or miners is way different than 1,000 extra health to dragons, right? So that one's a no-brainer to me. It doesn't get used at high levels, and there's a good reason for it. Eternal Tome is an S tier. Even after the nerf, the change, I won't say nerf, because in some ways I feel like it was better for certain attack strategies. The Eternal Tome's an S tier. It's just invincibility for 8.2 seconds at max level. Just hit me and it doesn't matter. I don't see how you could run anything without the Eternal Tome. Point blank, period. Rage Gem. Rage Gem is one of those I used to have a lot of love for, and I don't as much anymore. So I am going to put it in B tier because I still love Rage Gem, and I still use it on some smaller accounts. But it's one of those, again, where it kind of sputters out on the top, and it kind of gets overshadowed by the next one, which is the Healing Tome, which I think is an A tier. I don't think it's an S tier. I don't think it's a must run. I think if you're running Root Riders, it's a must. I think if you're running Dragons, it's kind of a nice thing to have, but if you're running Dragons or Dragon Riders, then I could be swayed to that Rage Gem if I really wanted to. So that's just a me thing. That's a personal preference, right? 100%. And again, those could be very easily flopped depending on who you are and what you're running. But I feel pretty comfortable with the Healing Tome in A. And then we got Fireball. Fireball is kind of niche, kind of like the Dark Crown. So that's probably where I'm gonna put it. Shout out Sir Clap and the family, who is big on the invisibility quakes and then fireballing somebody's base to take out a nice chunk. I think it's always fantastic to see. I just think it's so niche at high levels. I don't think there's a lot of armies at high levels that really get benefit from it. So I don't think it's necessarily worth doing. Next is the Lava Puppet. Because of the Eternal Tome rework, this one actually is a little bit better. It was going to be F or D. Now it's probably C or B. I think it's pretty average. I think it's 2 Lava Puppets. I think there's a couple things you really could get out of them to help. I've seen people talk about using ice blocks. Take out the 2 nearest air defenses, send the Lava Puppets out, let them go cross map, and then ice block them in the middle for just extra tank. I think that's an awesome idea. I do think that's a super niche idea. I do think the Eternal Tome changing to where it heals things within the no matter what it is in that radius, I do think helps it. But I do think at the same time they'll just go out ahead. They'll get killed. I don't see a lot of use out of that realistically. We're down to the last one now. We're down to the Royal Champion. So we have the Royal Gem. Last time you guys flamed me for putting the Royal Gem. I don't know. I had it maybe at A or B tier. It's not going that high this time around, right? Because there's so many better options, right? It's definitely going to go in like C tier. It's pretty average. It's a nice chunk of extra life, right? Which is pretty cool. It gives her an extra health. But I do think, personally, that with the addition of the revive spell, there's no need for a hero equipment to something like this when there are so many better options. I really do think the revive spell just put the Royal Gem down. Not that I've been using the Royal Gem beforehand, But now with the revive, there's no reason absolutely at all to need to. So I think that one's a pretty easy C tier. Now we go to the Seeking Shield. Excuse me. Ugh. Seeking Shield's pretty is another default equipment, right? It's pretty mediocre. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Hits 3 buildings. I think again I think there's just things that do what the Seeking Shield already does, but better. It's going in D tier, and I dare somebody to fight me on that one, right? So I think like it has its very rare instances, right? I've seen people run that and the Rocket Spear together. I think I'd rather just run the Rocket Spear and chance it. Um, it only does so much damage. It only hits 3 things. I don't think it's worth doing. Next we go to Hog Puppet. Hog Puppet is another one of those kind of niche, right? It's kind of nice for Root Rider armies. The Witch Fireballs make it okay, right? If you use it as kind of delayed, kind of later in the raid, it's not bad because it's kind of like the Henchman Puppet, right? Where it's throwing out some hogs in front of your Royal Champion. Your champion has a second of invisibility. It's nice. It's not bad. It's not going to be anything amazing, though. It's going to go in B tier. Same principle for something like the Haste Vial. Haste Vial just speeds up your Royal Champion. I think it's kind of nice in certain scenarios. Like, for example, if you're doing a Spirit Walk, I always call it a Royal Champion Juggle, where you Royal Champion with the Spirit Fox, let her go for 4 seconds, throw an invisibility when she's visible, and then I call that juggling. Whenever you're juggling, I think it's a lot of fun. Once the Spirit Fox hits, you click that ability and watch her run through 3 bases and then recall her. I think it's fantastic. But I do think that's such a niche thing that I think it's so few and far between that I can't put it any higher than B, given how strong that is. And again, doesn't have a lot of use in higher, like air armies. You don't really get a lot of use out of it. You know what you do get a ton of use out of? The Rocket Spear in these higher tier armies. So where would I put the Rocket Spear? Rocket Spear is not something I use regardless of army, but I do think it's strong enough that I'm very comfortable putting it in A tier. Yeah, at max level, it's 9 or 10 extra spears. They do extra damage. You could use it to help funnel aside for some army attacks. You can use it really good to start a Royal Champion dive, get some free value before you have to actually dive with the invisibility spells. I think that one has a lot more purposes to it, and I think that one is kind of a no-brainer for A tier. I almost want to put it in S tier, but I don't think I can, because I noticed that on all my armies, like I said, S tier was a must-use. These 4 up here are getting used in every army comp that I use when I use that hero. The only ones I don't use is the Minion Prince and the Barbarian King. So the rest of them get used kind of regardless, right? And last but not least, the Electro Boots. This one's an S tier. The little bit of sail feeling is pretty cool. The little bit of damage it can do to buildings if you have to overlap them with an invisibility charge or a Royal Champion dive, is pretty sweet. I think that's second to none. Also, not to mention the damage that she does to heroes, clan castle troops. The Skelly traps are basically non-existent with her doing that. I think that one has to be an S tier. I think that gives you 1 S tier of each, and I think there's no question that you should run those if you're running those heroes. And I think everything else is kind of just up to you. Anything C or below, I probably wouldn't run myself. But again, it's based on what you have, right? I noticed there's a lot of epics up here. Not all of them, though, right? So there's definitely some things you have some choices. This is my tier list, though. I'm very happy with this one, especially in comparison to the last one. So let me know what you guys think below. Let me know what you guys think I missed. Again, there was a handful of them that I said could be swayed 1 up or 1 down. So don't you come at me with saying, oh my god, how dare you put the Royal Gem or, at C tier, it's really an F tier. You know what I'm talking about. It's not that bad. I could be swayed to put that in D tier, though, right? Stuff like that. So make sure you've seen it all before you tell me how wrong I am in the comment section below. Otherwise, I'm coming back for you. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what else you guys want to see in the comment section below. And for those of you guys who don't know, you're welcome to join our Discord. When you join our Discord, you actually get some say in our videos like this. So make sure you feel free to join our Discord members only section for Silver and Gold Pass members. Get a say in what kind of videos go up. So I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks, everybody.